Hey, welcome everybody once again. So here we are for part 2 at the Sullivan County Humane Society's vlog. Thank you so much for joining us. There's just a couple of things that I want to go on ahead and get out of the way before we start. First of all, we're going to be adjusting the time, so instead of 3:30 on Fridays, it's going to be 6 o'clock on Fridays. Also, if you missed today's episode, you can go ahead and tune in to Claremont Community Public Access Television Channel 8. We're going to be airing there as well, and as well as YouTube. We'll be on Instagram, and this is also a recorded version, but we will be monitoring your questions live. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the comment box, and we will get to them as quick as possible. We like doing it on Fridays at the specific time because we can get more of you folks involved in this, and that's what this is all about, is community. But unfortunately, Fridays is a really busy time for the shelter. So, but there will be somebody manning by, ready to answer your questions. So, just like last week, I've got Sherry here. Sherry, if you just want to tell me again, your capacity here, and maybe a little bit about your buddy.
Okay, so I am on the board of directors, the vice president, and I am just hands-on a lot here in the shelter. This here is Limbo. Yeah, I'm Limbo. And I was a stranded kitty with his siblings. So he was outside in the cold, and we saved them, and they were in foster, and now they are here at the shelter ready to be adopted. They're a little scared, but they'll come into it. They're good foster babies.
Oh yeah, I mean, they've gone through a lot, so that's gonna stress anybody out. Now, how many of them did you say there was?
5 total. It's Limbo, and then he has actually 4 brothers.
Wow, so they're all boys, an all-boy litter. That's fantastic. So let's go on ahead and get into this. So my question is, so say somebody comes and adopts Limbo. What is the best way to introduce a new cat, kitten, whatever, to a home that already has 1 or 2 cats, or maybe even 3 cats? What's the best way to introduce? What's the best way to introduce a new family member like that into a situation?
You definitely want to keep the kitty in a separate room if you can, of course, because it takes a little bit for them to acclimate to the smells and everything of a new home. I would do that for I would do at least 2 days. Let your other animals around the door smell in the door. After your first day, just take your existing animals and put them in the room that the new kitty is in, and take the new kitty and let him have the run of the house for a little while, and then maybe by day 3 introduce them and see what happens. They'll hiss, they might smack each other, but if there's not an all-out brawl, everything should be okay. If there is an all-out brawl, go right back to secluding your new kitty, and then just reintroduce again and see what happens.
Right. And that works. I just adopted Winifred, and I have 2 cats of my own that are in their teens, so they're very used to their own routine, what they do. Absolutely. And everything like that. And today was the first day that Winifred actually got out to actually associate and figure out what's going on. So that absolutely works. The first day they were hissing at each other underneath the door, but today they've gotten quite a bit used to each other. But she did at the end of by the time she was all done, she was tired. She wanted to go back into her
little
safety.
safe haven. Yeah, and that's fine too. Yeah.
So now, say there's not any pets around. How long would it normally take for a new cat or kitten to get used to a new home?
I mean, I would start the same way in one room, litter box, food and everything right in that one room, even with no other kitties, just so that they get acclimated to, again, the smells of that home, the people of that home, the the loudness, the not loudness. And then probably after 24 hours, I would, as long as it's not a cat that is scared.
Okay.
If you've got a cat that's scared, now I'll give an example of my first adopted cat here, Harvest. She was an abused cat, and she stayed in my room months. Under the bed at first, and I just kept getting her out from under that bed, putting her on the bed, getting her out from under that, putting her on the bed. And eventually, after a few months, she came up on my bed. It's been 4 years. She won't come out of my room, but she's a happy girl. I'm a happy mama, so.
So the big thing is just to make sure you have patience with
Yes.
with your new family member, because if you try forcing them or anything, you're just going to cause them a little more stress. And if you have multiple cats, you can cause a lot of issues.
Absolutely.
So just have patience, and then see how when the cat gets comfortable. Put yourself in the place of the cat, because when you do in a new place, when someone's in a new place or a new job or a new town or whatever, there's always that little bit of acclimation.
Yep.
So, now, how, going on to like the food aspect and diets and stuff, I know that, the Humane Society here, they feed particular kinds of food to, new rescues and new surrenders. How long and what is the process to get a new cat acclimated to a different kind of food? For example, Winifred, she was eating, the medicated food, the special nutrition food that's here, but I'm trying to get her to eat the meow mix that I have, the food that I have, and she's doing pretty well. But what about a cat that's, say, 8, 9, 10 years old, that's used to eating a particular way, and for one reason or another they're not going to eat that same kind of food? What's the process? How long does it take for that acclimation?
So here, when people adopt cats from us, we do give them a sample of the food they're eating here. And it's a bag that probably would last about a week, because you're going to wean, put a little bit of that food in what they're eating. A little bit of food that you have into what they were eating here, and then just go less and less of what they were eating here. Usually it's about a week. If they seem not to want to eat, the stuff that you're providing them, because you one of two things. You could try something else, or you could always give us a call and we could provide a little bit more of the food that we have here just to get them to
Sure.
to eat.
Now, something my mom used to do is she used to take like tuna juice and put that into the fresh food, into the new food. Is that something that's acceptable to do? I mean, that's not going to upset their little bellies, or?
I wouldn't do it a lot.
Okay.
I wouldn't do it a lot, because a cat that's not eating, tuna may not be the best for them.
Okay.
I just learned that recently, so I'm sharing that. So I may try a different method. Always maybe try a little bit of something, wet food.
Right.
Well,
talking about learning new things, something that I learned last night, and I was actually staggered at this number. So instead of doing just standard little tidbits of factoids, we're actually going to start something called Cat Facts. Yeah, Cat Facts. So we'll have a couple of them going on. But one of the main cat facts that I learned was that there are 3.4 million cats who enter into shelter care per year in the U.S. alone. That is not including, Canada and Mexico and Europe and Asia and all those other, every other country. That is just the United States alone. Does the Humane Society feel some of those numbers? Would you say on an annual basis? I mean, I know last week we talked a little bit about what we receive on a month, but would you just, I'm not looking for a number, but would you just say that you can see how that's a number is possible?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We get calls every day. We have a waiting list. So there's a lot of cats out there looking to get into shelters.
So how long is that waiting list right now?
Right now, I believe we have one on our waiting list. So that we had just a couple of days ago, 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that can change tonight.
Absolutely.
Somebody could give us a call saying that, for one reason or another, they can't keep their animals, and that will change that really quick.
Right.
So.
Right. Now I want to talk a little bit about indoor outdoor cats, because that's a huge thing, and you know.
I hate to cut you off, but look behind you.
That was adorable. Something I want to get into is indoor outdoor cats, and that's a big thing. There are some people who believe that well, to keep a cat indoor, you're neglecting them from their natural animalistic ability. You're neglecting them from their hunter, their primal instincts. Other folks are on the other side, where say it's a lot safer to have an indoor cat than it is to have an outdoor cat. Well, here's another little cat fact. Cat facts! That outdoor cats, or rather should I say indoor cats have at least 10 years longer of a lifespan on average over outdoor cats. So the question I pose to you is, personally, as a cat owner, do you think that cats should be indoor, outdoor, or a mix of both?
So I say, in my opinion, indoor. They are much safer. The life expectancy is much longer. And, there's too many dangers out there. Even if you say, oh, well, I live on 4 acres of land, and there's still predators out there.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
unfortunately, with the way that we are impeding on wildlife, we're going to end up, with them in our backyard.
Right.
Getting to our kitties. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got what do you call it? Like foxes and coyotes and,
Fisher cats. And even possum, I know possums are good for your yard, and
Yeah.
if and so if I was to have a possum in my yard, I just wouldn't have any ticks, but I wouldn't need it because my kitties are inside. But
Right.
inside is the best.
So now, speaking of the whole indoor outdoor thing, there's another big question and another big issue that comes along a lot of pet owners. Now, I never practiced, and my mom never did this, but I know that there are a few people who do engage in declawing their cats. Some people do just the front, some do all 4. I think I heard years ago that a lot of vets won't do all 4 anymore. So what is what's your opinion on declawing a cat if it's going to be an indoor only animal?
My opinion is I personally would not do it for a couple of reasons. Do a little research on how it's done. It's sad. 2, if that cat ever got out of your home, they have no way to defend themselves.
Right. They can't climb a tree. They can't they can't fight or fly.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So, and that's just my personal opinion on what I would or wouldn't do.
Right. Now, as the Humane Society as an entity, if you knew that somebody was going to declaw their cats, would that prevent you from adopting a cat out?
No. I mean, people do it for certain reasons, but we always, have other ways for people to try first. Like if a cat is scratching at your couch, there's many, many ways to get them to stop,
Sure.
So we always like to try that way before.
Right.
We see people going and get them declawed.
Right. So, I talked a little bit earlier. I asked you the question about cat food. What do you think is best for a cat, dry or wet? There's some folks that say, oh, well, don't feed them too much wet food because it'll give them this. Or, you have to mix it up. And some people won't feed their animals any dry food whatsoever. And there's some people that I know that will do nothing but feed their animals human food. But anyways, so what do you, I mean, working with these animals on a day-to-day basis, what have you seen that works the best? I mean, wet food, dry food, a mix of the two?
It depends on the circumstance and the cat. And I will say I have multiple cats at home. And for instance, I have 3 that have kidney disease. Okay, so we really want to get them to get more water. Cats don't get enough water. So anytime you feed cat wet food, dilute it with water.
Okay.
because from day one they're not getting enough. It's just the way they were in the wild. So they just don't drink enough. So always try and give them extra water. So with my kidney kitties, I will give them some kidney wet food, wet down, so that they're getting the amount of water that they need. My other cats that are on just a regular diet, they will get crunchies, and I will give them a treat of wet food, watered down.
Okay.
Just so that, because if you start it younger in their life, they'll have a better chance of possibly not getting kidney disease when they're older. And
Sure.
so
So what about taking dry food and putting in a little bit of water and mixing it around, kind of creating a little gravy with it?
I've done that before.
Okay.
I've done that before. Always warm water and
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
nice warm treat.
Fantastic.
Mm,
Now,
sweet.
you said you have quite a few cats in
I
your
do,
house.
and I'm not going to say the number because we got to keep that quiet for my husband. Shh.
So that brings up the question, and everybody has heard the term "crazy cat lady." My mother was a crazy cat lady, and I
I
hope
take
to,
that as a compliment. By the way.
well, there you go. But me personally, I mean, with my lifestyle, I kind of hope that I don't turn into a crazy cat guy.
Sure.
So I know what my limit is to having, how many pets I can have. Just like there are object hoarders out there, there's also pet hoarders out there. So to be safe, what would you say is an average as far as how many cats per household per person? So say you've got, mom, dad, Jane, and, little Bobby. Okay, so you got a 4-member household in a, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, I don't know, 25,000 square foot home.
Oh heck, you know how many I could? No,
I don't know,
just
maybe
kidding.
15,000. I don't know,
Now-
but I mean, maybe it's just like a small double wide trailer kind of situation. How many cats, in particular, would you say would be safe and comfortable in that kind of environment?
Okay, so we're gonna say that these people can afford the care of
Absolutely,
all the cats.
absolutely.
Okay, so I mean, I would say 4.
Okay.
That's not a huge number and affordable.
Okay. So you would say basically 4 would be nice and safe for you. So almost like one pet per person.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. That's awesome. So one of the things that I noticed when I first started checking out the Humane Society was there's a lot of videos of you guys playing with them with a bunch of different toys. Little feathers and strings and balls and all kinds of things to get them their exercise. Now, my question is, what kind of cat toys are the safest, and what kind of cat toys should people, maybe have been using for such a long time that they might stay away from, if there's any like that?
Well, if it's not made for a cat, I just wouldn't use it. I think your best toy for cats is your wand with a feather on it.
Okay.
Because that's giving a cat to, they're getting the chance to stalk it like if they were outside, because that's just in their genetics. So the feather, and of course let them catch it. But yeah, I think that's probably your best one. And of course they like their balls and, all those furry toys they have out there. Obviously don't give a cat anything that has any chemicals and all that on it. Just, look at what you're playing with them with. I mean, even a balled up piece of paper they're quite happy with in a cardboard box. But I know they weren't geared for cats, but
Right.
they love them.
Right. So now that brings something else to mind. Is a laser safe or unsafe for, to play with a cat with?
Right. I mean, I've used them on my cats. I would assume that the kitty ones are safe, but I believe on the package it even says do not put it in their eyes. Don't shine it in their eyes. But I think they're pretty safe for them. Just follow the instructions on the package.
Yes. So long as you're not too crazy with it and pointing it at their face where they can just jerk around and accidentally
Exactly.
pops into
Keep it
their
on
eyes.
the floor.
Right.
You
keep
just
it
need it on the floor, and they will do the rest.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, another question that a lot of people have strong opinions on, and that's box filler. Back in the day there was just clay, and then it turned into clay and charcoal, and then, it evolved from that point to, clumping clay. I know I myself use clumping clay, the kind that I get. It works fantastically. It's like, shoveling out a brick.
Right.
And then the rest of the good stuff just sifts right through. And I mean, the stuff is great. But something that I found out when I came here is that there's this other thing called, I guess they're pine pellets or something like that. I guess they originally started off being horse bedding or livestock bedding, but now it's used as kind of a box filler. Which one would you say is the best?
I think, again, depends on your cat.
Mm-hmm.
What we use here are it's the horse bedding. Okay. What we use here at the shelter works really well. But it depends on the cat. Some cats don't like certain litters, and they'll let you know it.
We talked a little bit about declawing, and I did a little research last night, and I found out that out of all domesticated cats, 20 to 25% of them have actually been declawed. Now, that statistic doesn't go based off of whether it was all four or just the front ones. My thought on that is kind of what you said. I mean, what happens if they get out? Now, I know I've thought that I've gone into a room where a cat was, seen the cat there, looked away for 2 seconds as I'm closing the door, and then the cat's gone because he's now in the living room. Mm-hmm. So that can absolutely happen. Yeah. So I guess, all of this to say, there's a couple of major things going on here. One is have patience with your cat.
Absolutely.
With your new cat. You don't want to rush them into any kind of situation where they will feel uncomfortable. Second of all, obviously make sure you spay and neuter your animals, because it doesn't matter how careful you think you are. Cats are playful, they're wily, they're sneaky, and they can always be able to get out even when you don't think they're getting out. They can definitely get out. So just make sure they're spayed and neutered to help control the overpopulation of stray cats. Another thing I wanted to mention is to just remember that owning a pet is absolutely a lifelong commitment for the life of that cat.
Absolutely.
Don't just, if you're moving or if you're, if you're relocating, or if you just can't have the animal anymore, try to figure out a way to find that animal a new home. Now, brushing cats, a lot of folks say, oh my gosh, I can't sit down because I'm wearing black or white or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think that brushing and grooming a cat is actually a very therapeutic thing for both the animal and the person doing it. So grab a brush, a nice soft brush, and pet your cat. You'll both love it, and you'll create a stronger bond of love between you and your animal. And last but not least, and this is just an opinion of my own, if you're having an issue with your cat clawing things or whatever, clip their nails. It's been my experience that when you clip a cat's nails, they'll scratch for a bit, but then they're done. And they're scratching on furniture, walls, doors. It tends to go down after that. If you can't, or you don't feel comfortable clipping their nails, take it to a vet. So,
we also here at the shelter, if you want to bring your cat in between the hours of 4 and 7 on Wednesday evenings, we would be happy to clip their nails, just by donation. So keep that in mind.
That's awesome. So there's one more thing that I wanted to address today. Now, there's been a press release from the CPD, the Claremont Police Department, as well as a release that we made concerning the abandonment of 14 cats. And unfortunately, it has been reduced to 12. So, given this, I mean, I don't have the adjective to describe the events that happened that night. And if y'all stay tuned, we actually have a video that we're going to go on ahead and show you, as well as some contact information and ways that you can help prevent this kind of thing, and ways that you can help us take care of these existing 12 cats. But so I guess there is a 2-week they're within the 2 weeks time span of making sure, because something about the dehydration?
Yeah, the dehydration and hypothermia can cause neurological issues with kitties. So what happens is the brain swells. So if you can turn that around, if you know you save a cat in time, you can turn that around and they will not have any issues. So
Right.
yep.
So I heard that there's something about their sodium levels or something, and that's what can cause the swelling in the brain and
Right.
everything like that. All right. Well, I hope, honestly, I hope you guys found this this episode to be informative. I hope that you found it to be educational, and I hope that y'all continue to support the Sullivan County Humane Society. And if you're viewing us from anywhere outside of the Sullivan County area, support the shelter that you live by, or feel free to even come by and check us out. So like I said, stay tuned. There's going to be a video following today's vlog that kind of goes into a little bit about what happened that evening, as well as some contact information. And if you miss it today, it's going to be on our Facebook for, before it gets buried underneath comments. It's going to be on our Facebook for, I think, another, 24 to 48 hours. We're going to make sure to try to save it in our videos section so you guys can see it there. It's also going to be a 6-minute spot on our Instagram page. Make sure you visit our Instagram page at SCHS of NH on Instagram. That's also our Twitter page. And of course, visit us on our website at sullivancountyhumanesociety.org. And, if you know folks who have access and enjoy watching the Claremont Community Public Access Channel 8, we're going to be, you will be able to see this on there as well. And those details will be following in a future announcement. So once again, Sherry, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to do this, and your little babies here. And we hope to see you guys next time. Again, remember to share, like, subscribe. Also keep an eye on YouTube, and share us to all your Facebook friends. Until then, until next time, you guys have a good one. Bye.
Bye.